Good morning, everyone. My name is Gregory Carlson. I am the Executive Director of NYAHMA. I thank you all for being here. Originally, this Regulators Conference was to be in November of last year, but that fell victim to Sandy. So we rescheduled it for spring, if you believe it's spring, at this time. So I thank you all for being here. I want to first I have a couple of thank yous. One is the presenters from HUD, New York State, New York City. Teresa, thank you for all your help. Yeah, she was really great. And your staff, thank you. You know, NYAHMA has expanded its team. I mean, it went from me, and now we have that expanded. So I think I would like to give a few kudos to them. First one is Richard Schramm. He's our video guy. As you know, all our seminars are taped, and if you remember, you could go to the members and see it. So if you miss it, or you miss something or had to leave early, you can always catch up and going to the members page. Sorry. The second person who is not here yet, okay, but will be helping us in our DC location is Orville Matias, and he is our IT person that we've done. As you know, it has been a while since we put out a newsletter, and we got someone, a Joseph Paduska, who is now handling our newsletter, and I think he does a great job. We have our accountants, Pretty Banglia, and we also have counsel, Richard Singer. But most of all, and she's here somewhere, we have Catherine McCary, who is our event planner, my right-hand person, and also takes a lot of stress away from me. So I appreciate all that she's done. That, and just so that you know that all can't be done. That's staff, all right? That all can't be done without our board, all right? So, well, I like to introduce people on the board. We have David Buckwalter, Susan Camerati, Tom Catlow, Don Manning, Gail Mortgage Badger, Teresa Toda, Josephine Perella, Brad Winston, and I'd like to put out a special thanks to Hector Pinero of Related, who made this all possible. His staff has been great. I also like to shout out to a few kudos to Manhattan Plaza people, Bruce Harrington, Richard Hunnings, and Diana Cruz for all their help putting all this together. Finally, now what has happened is that we had Sandy. Then we put together a program, and guess what happened with that? We had sequestration, travel restrictions, so nobody could come from Washington. So we set up videos, presentations from their offices. And then just last week, Secretary Donovan pulled two of our headliner speakers to go to some meetings. So with that, I would have to say, it was a lot of hectic, it was a lot of filling in spaces, and I have to say that the NYAHMA board president, Hunter Cushing, did a great job running around, trying to make a great program, which I think you'll agree at the end of the session. And without any further ado, I'll give you a little while to walk up here. I'd like to introduce to you our Hunter Cushing. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the annual Regulators Seminar, which is our premier event of the year. We really try and have an opportunity to get all the owners and agents together with the various people that regulate us here in New York and across the country. As you heard from Greg, we've had kind of an up and down year. While we had to postpone our normal October, November Regulators Conference because of Sandy, after that, we did have a very good opportunity to, thanks to Teresa Bate, who asked us to host a Sandy seminar. That's not working? No one hears me? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes, this is working. All right. And we had people, HUD had people from all over the country, Florida, Louisiana, talking about disaster recovery. And that was very well attended, and we were very pleased with that. Two of the things that NYAHMA does, for those of you who are here for the first time, let me give you a little bit. NYAHMA is the premier representative owners and managers of affordable housing in New York. And we have two main purposes that we do. For those of you who are not members yet, it is education. And we spend a lot of time having seminars, usually half-day seminars, on topics important to owners and agents in New York in operating the programs, or in getting messages out that HUD, it's easier for HUD to come to us to arrange a meeting about something going on than going through the bureaucracy of doing it internally. And we have, this spring, we are going to have a topic that David Buckwalter is putting together now on 2530 or flags. And that everyone, no matter how careful you are, once in a while, you're going to get in trouble with a flag or a threatened flag, and that is a good thing to hear. We already have one seminar planned for the fall. It's going to be on management reviews, and everyone needs to know how to prep for a management review. You know, that's where you can get caught up on different things that you don't know. Your files may not be in the most perfect order, and it's good for someone to go look. We also spend a lot of time on REAC inspections. What, David, can't hear me? Is that it?
Yeah, you gotta eat it.
You gotta eat it. Is this better? All right, sorry about that. I can't hear you. So we have that. The other thing that we spend time doing is we think that communication is the best thing with the people in New York. So we have about quarterly meetings with HUD and with CGI. CGI is a contractor for HCR, who's the contract administrator, to talk about issues that all of you bring up or we see in our daily practices. And we really work to resolve those and to have a communication. The same group from NYAHMA meets with these people on a quarterly basis, and we iron them out.
We're doing this again.
Am I not doing this right? I'll just speak. You know, you need it for the taping. Is this it? Is this better? You hear me? Then I'm sorry. So you didn't hear all that? You're gonna have to do it again? No, I'm not gonna do it again. So we go through. So that's what we do, and we have about 300 members representing 90,000 units of affordable housing in New York. We are growing all the time, and as you hear that from Greg, we're trying to provide more services. Those of you, he went through very quickly Joe Paducah. We're very lucky. I was at a meeting in January, and Joe used to write for about 20 years for one of the two national trade publications that there is, an HDR. And I don't know if you people have seen HDR recently, but it has been bought. It was started by Chuck Edson and Vince Lane about 30 years ago, who were the foremost lawyers in this field in Washington. And they started this monthly publication called HDR, which Housing Development Reporter, which told the practitioners everything they needed to know about affordable housing, the inside. It has now been sold, and it is not what it used to be. And Joe was laid off in the sale, and he agreed to come and produce our quarterly publication. So now you're going to get really the inside stuff in what is going on, and that is one of the benefits you get by being a member of this organization. So I urge you to do it. It's wonderful. We have a true real publication. We are also going to be doing more seminars. We have a whole cast planned, and with Catherine McCrary on board, we have the wonderful woman power to really get it done. And she's really been a help. Well, with that, you heard about the troubles we had with Sandy and sequester, but we do have, unfortunately, Marie Head, the Deputy Assistant Secretary, could not be here, but as you see in the program, we have a wonderful substitute. We have our own Deborah Vandermunden, and as you know, she was not only the hub director of HUD, but she was also the head of DHCR. So she will really bring you what is going on here in New York. And for those of you with either REDSUP or RAP, she is definitely going to talk about RAD, which is a wonderful opportunity because New York is one of the places in the country, of the 4 places with the most number of REDSUP and RAP units. Well, we have a full day for you, and I don't want to take any more time because we have all your HUD folks just waiting to speak. And I want to introduce, and she needs no introduction because she's our wonderful multifamily hub director, Teresa Bateman, who knows everything there is to know about multifamily housing.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So nice to see all of you again, and some new faces also. I would like to begin by introducing my staff who is here. Christine El-Shahat, George Savopoulos, Yvette Lugo, and Diane Lima. They'll be here this morning, so if you have any questions or would like to discuss any issues, please see them. A lot has happened since we last met. As indicated by both Greg and Hunter, we were stricken by Sandy. And I know that many of you who sustained damage to your properties. First of all, I want to say you guys were terrific. As owners and managers, the things that you did to bring your properties around and bring them back on board and to assist the residents there, I mean, I have to applaud you. Really, I mean, you really need to be commended about that. But, the work is still ongoing, and you're going to be hearing from your project managers or being harassed by Yvette in order to make sure that the plans are complete. So I ask you to be patient and to continue doing your hard work. Since we last met, HUD has issued 28 housing notices in fiscal year 2012. In addition, for fiscal year 2013, we issued another 11. I'll highlight some of them as we go on. We began in our office sustaining our investments, SOI. We had begun SOI in October of last year, but then Sandy hit, so that was put on the back burner. But we have been working with folks from headquarters in order to bring us up to speed, and I'll explain that. And then, of course, sequestration and how that's going to impact all of us. As far as HUD personnel is concerned, we're going to be unavailable for 7 days. We're going to be furloughed for 7 days. The first day will be May 24th. So throughout these 7 days, we cannot communicate with you. We will not be able to read email. We will not be in the office. You will not be able to get in touch with us. So if you want those dates, May 24th, June 14th, July 5th, August 2nd, July 22nd, August 2nd, August 16th, and August 30th. So those are the days that we're going to be affected. And again, unfortunately, you'll be affected because we cannot communicate with you. In addition to that, I think most of you have received the memo from our Deputy Assistant Secretary, Marie Head, dated March 11th, which dealt with Section 8, project-based Section 8 contracts and the funding of them. Basically, what the memo was indicating that you will be receiving funding until the end of the calendar year. It was a little bit confusing because it talked about fiscal years and when, your contracts were expiring. And basically, as I said, up until the end of this calendar year, you will be receiving funding. Come next calendar year, we'll see what happens. Between sequestration and the new budget that will be coming out, we don't really know what's going to happen as far as the funding is concerned. As I had indicated, we are starting SOI, which is sustaining our investments. Last year, we had done breaking ground. That was on the asset production side, where we were working towards uniform processing of new applications, cutting our deadlines or processing times, and it's been very successful in our office and throughout the country. Sustaining our investments has 3 objectives: clarity, consistency, and capabilities. This is on the part of the asset management side. Clarity, what we're doing now, we're in the process of identifying and prioritizing projects according to risk categories. Consistency, that in how we execute our business and engage with our key stakeholders, and our capabilities as far as building the knowledge base of our staff. So we're working towards completing this training session with the folks from headquarters and moving on so that we can enter into a better working relationship with you and being able to identify our properties as far as risk-based, so that we won't be spending as much time on those properties that have no risk, and concentrating more with you on projects that have issues with either financials, market, could be physical conditions, so we'll work closely with you. As far as the housing notices are concerned, I'm just going to highlight some of them that both Yvette and Diane will be speaking to you about. But in 2012, there was a notice 12-01, which dealt with multifamily low-income housing tax credit pilot program. That's very strong. It's going to be expanded throughout the country. Right now, there are core offices that are handling it. This is for new financing under 223F. Our office currently is being handled by Boston, although we haven't received any applications for this particular area. Collection procedures for excess income receivables, which is notice 12-02. And Yvette is going to be touching upon EIV and also as far as updating, supplemental information in reference to identifying family members or other persons of an organization supportive of a tenant for occupancy in HUD-assisted housing, which is 1209. And the list goes on and on. The other important one that I wanted to talk to you about that will have, may have some impact on you is in reference to the notice that was recently published, which is 1305. And it's Hurricane Sandy Superstorm Response Expedited Processing for FHA multifamily mortgage insurance applications. That particular notice is in reference to all of our HUD insured programs, from 223Fs to 87s, 220, 1D4s, and it's a very expedited processing of our mortgage insurance applications, and we have had a lot of interest in it. And I'm sure that the mortgagees that are out there are working very hard in getting their applications together to us so that we can review them and get them out within 30 days. So that's about all of the new information that I have for you at this point in time. And again, I am very happy to see you all here and look forward to us all continuing to work together. Thank you. Does any
questions?
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, during the tax credit program,
Yeah.
you said that your that your office is being handled by Boston.
Right.
Now, as I understood that, if you had a tax credit deal in New York as a lender that's approved of your program, we could not support. Are you saying that it can be processed through Boston, or do we have to wait for New York to be one of the areas to process this?
Okay, you don't have to wait for New York to be, for that application to be processed. You could go through Boston. And that, again, is under the particular notice, which is 1201. And it's an expedited process, and it's a pilot program. Eventually, it will be, expanded throughout the country. But currently, just for those, it's in Boston. They're handling it for us. Any other questions?
Anyone else? Question? This is your opportunity. Well, if not, Teresa will be around here most of the morning, I believe. And if you think of something comes up, I'm sure she'll answer. Thank you, Teresa. All right. Next up is a very busy woman in the Office of Multifamily Housing. She is, Diane Lima is, by organizational diagram, really the Director of Asset Management, which does our day-to-day asset operation of the project. However, she's going to be speaking to you because they're about development opportunities. What has happened at HUD over the last few years, there used to be a real brick wall between asset management and development. And what you've seen happening with notices coming out, asset management is getting more involved in the development process. More PCNAs are required, or they talk about projects that are refinanced or were HUD financed and now are trying to come back into the program. So there's more of a coordination, and there is no one who represents the disciplines of those two things coming together better than Diane. And here she is.
I'm going to try to put this in here. No, it's not going to work. Okay. So there's just one thing I wanted to mention, that I really oversee both asset management and asset production.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Even though all of it, well, I don't want to use that word. But nonetheless, I'm here to discuss asset production this morning. So to discuss a little bit of what Teresa had brought up in regards to some of the notices that have recently come out of headquarters, the most recent notice that is really very active right now in our portfolio is Notice 1305, which is the Hurricane Sandy notice, which basically discusses the ability of the office to be able to turn over an FHA mortgage application within 30 days, which is a tremendously expedited timeline that we're hoping to be able to meet those deadlines. It's going to be very difficult because the application is pretty much going to need to be perfect for us to be able to meet that deadline. But we are committed to trying to hit those target dates as best as we can. We have had probably close to 20 concept meetings on Hurricane Sandy notice, and I think what's going to happen is, since we've had all these concept meetings, all the applications are going to hit all at once, and we're going to have a difficult time trying to sort things out. But in the last couple of years, we've really hired a couple of spectacular people that are working in the production side, and they're really doing a great job, and we've been doing some really large loans lately, and we're very happy with how their production is going and how well versed they are in the program. So that's Notice 1305. A notice that came out recently is 1307, which is probably more for mortgagees than it is for lenders, but it is a notice in regards to concentrated risk. So what they're asking for is that anybody that has more than $250 million worth of FHA mortgage insurance is going to have to get an approval from headquarters. And it's going to have to be the lead lender that does that processing. And Needless to say, that approval has to be in prior to the application being submitted because the application will not be able to be processed until that concentrated risk review is done in headquarters. So again, more of a mortgagee notice, unless you're a really large owner of properties and are looking for big loans, that would be something that you would be needing to get an approval on. One of the other notices that came out, and this came out back in 2010, it has just been re-renewed. I didn't get the number for it, but it's the risk mitigation notice, and it talks about how some target numbers have to be hit. You know, years ago, especially on apps, if you had a 1:1 debt service ratio, you were fine. The risk mitigation notice kind of talks about debt services being a little higher, you know, depending on the size of the loan, at what level can it be approved? Can it be approved at the field office or the hub level, or does it need to go to National Loan Committee? So that notice, and it's nice because that notice has kind of like a grid box, and you know exactly where you fall in based on the number of units, whether you're affordable, you know, size of mortgage, and it'll tell you exactly where you land and how far we have to go to get an approval. One of the other notices that came out, and I'm not that familiar with RAD, but I know that there is a notice on underwriting instructions for RAD programs, and that's notice 12-20. The notice that Teresa also spoke about, which is 1201, which is a low-income housing tax credit pilot program. You know, that notice talks about from application to closing 120 days. And even though we're not a pilot office for that right now, if you submit your application under 1305, you get the 30-day review time. So it kind of goes together, but the application has to be a primary submission under 1305. One last thing, not part of FHA mortgage insurance, but in regards to 202s, as we all know, we haven't seen any money for 202s in at least two fiscal years. No one really knows what's going on with that program, if it's coming back, if it's going to be revamped, if it's going to be going to the states, but for the last 2 years, we haven't had any new 202 money, as well as 811. You know, there was an 811 demo program that came out this year that was kind of run by the states. There was limited funds. A couple of applications came in to New York, but unfortunately, none of the New York applications got sufficient points to fund. So in regards to 202 and 811s, we're pretty much dead for the last, 2 years, probably coming up next year too. We don't see any signs of that money coming through, but for now, that's pretty much all that's going on in underwriting and new construction and FHA mortgage insurance. So if there aren't any questions, I will look for Hunter.
No questions? I would think there were.
I just think people are waving to one another. She's waving to her. I would say the red jacket is waving to the woman sitting in the front. There she goes.
Well, let's see, a couple of things. The notice, the Sandy notice, that really gives the hub director a lot of authority, doesn't it? The people may want to come in for issues.
Yes, it does. It gives Teresa a tremendous amount of waiver authority. She cannot waive anything that's statutory, but when it's regulatory, she has lots of room to be able to waive certain things.
You know, there are all those issues that come up during a processing that you say, oh, that's annoying. Make a good case. Teresa has the ability, upon her recommendation, they also don't have to go to loan committee, right? In Washington, it's one company, you can handle that all in the field. No?
Yes, I was going to say, she's got power.
She's got real power. This is the time, guys. Yeah, Diane
I've been wanting a raise, but...
doesn't have probably more applications. You know, you heard what she said. But if you ever wanted to submit a mortgage application to HUD guys, this until December 31st is your time. Teresa, why don't you talk about your new Superman jacket?
Oh, yes. Did you see my cape?
The X is silent.
Yes.
Thanks, Diane.
I do have a lot of waiver authority. However, of course, statutory I cannot waive. As far as regulatory is concerned, I have the ability to waive it, but in consultation with headquarters, so not everything is waiverable, really waiverable by me as far as regulatory is concerned. As far as, what was the other thing that you were saying about? Oh.
Raise.
Raise. Where's my magic wand? You know, as far as the expedited processing is concerned, as Hunter indicated, it is a great opportunity. If you have an application that's ready to come in and ready to roll very quickly, you have to make sure that it's perfect, though. As far as the mortgagees are concerned, it does relate back to the low-income housing tax credit notice in the sense that you would have had to have undergone specific training on low-income housing tax credits, in addition to having a meeting in headquarters before being able to submit an application on behalf of your client. So it's a little bit limited in that sense, but there is a whole list on the web of mortgagees that are eligible in order to participate in this expedited processing. Yes?
Question regarding funding. As you indicated, we are going to be getting funding to the end of the calendar year. What is your feeling about what's going to happen after the calendar year is over?
Well, we're not getting paid, so maybe that money will be coming to Section 8. We don't know. I mean, it depends on Congress. I mean, you know, what money is going to be, you know, appropriated for Section 8. It's a crystal ball. I really can't say. Yes, Lance?
You're going to have under the Hurricane Sandy expedited processing, are you going to have the 5-day initial review of the application first?
It won't be as long as five days. I mean, we're going to try and complete it within a 5-day period, but we're hoping to make that time period even shorter when the application comes in. A loan committee. Loan committees, they're still going to take place.
Even though you have the ability to recommend.
Yes. In particular, and to be perfectly honest with you, one of the other things was in reference to concept meetings. The notice indicates that, you know, they're optional. I want a concept meeting. I mean, if I'm going to be able to process this application within a 30-day period, I want a concept meeting. We need to iron everything out up front so that when I get the application, it'll be complete. Okay?
What do you hear about the commitment authority?
Um,
Do you have enough?
we have-
You might not have enough?
So far, we have enough. In fact, we're going through a process before of requesting permission on a deal-by-deal basis for commitment authority, but that has now gone by the wayside, so we have enough money.
So is that still the priority?
No.
The commitment authority section?
No.
Any other question? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Aside from Sandy, is there rehab money still available?
There's no direct rehab money available at this time. However, there is funding for Sandy through the CDBG program that there's going to be city and state money. I don't think that those plans have been finally approved yet, but that's where the money is going to be coming from. Okay.
Anything else? Oh, you're also quiet this morning.
They must be asleep.
I don't know, what's going on? You need more coffee? Need more coffee? Are they thinking? Are they all thinking? You know, when we hear from all of you, it's always, we want to ask these questions to HUD. Why do they do this? You've got the entire leadership of the New York office right sitting over here. I would think that this is your golden opportunity to ask all those annoying questions that you always think about and never really have answered, because one of these people, or all of these people, can answer all of them.